Welcome into the Irish Squad Show. I'm Joe George, post-game host. Jeremiyah Love crushes it at the NFL Combine.
And I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-American. Jeremiyah Love proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is the best running back. But today we're going to talk about why it's so bad to be so good.
Reggie Brooks here, 92 All-American. And big ups to Eli Reardon. He may not have gotten in the end zone, but he had a really good day at the Combine.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Irish Squad Show here on the Locked On Irish YouTube and audio channels. Joe George, Alan Pinkett, Reggie Brooks here with you for the next hour as we discuss all the Notre Dame players at the Combine. Jeremiyah Love, obviously a great day for him. Did a lot when he probably didn't need to, honestly, which I think says a lot about who he is. We'll talk about how you replace Jeremiyah Love just in general, what it's like losing a top player on your roster, but also who are the key players in the Notre Dame running back room in 2026. But Reggie, Combine's going on. It was a lot of fun. Jeremiyah Love, 4.36, 4.37, 40-yard dash, flying down there. He's doing all the drills for the most part. But what's just, as you're watching the Combine unfold, you mentioned Eli, a big day for him as well. What'd you think of what we saw?
I was a little not disappointed with the run with Malachi Fields running, but I mean, he's one of those big targets. That I wish he would have ran better. With Eli, I mean, kid has shown that, again, another guy with a big catch radius, ran well, physical. I know they kind of talk about his size, which I'm still kind of like with, he's not as heavy as they may like, but I think he's a great inline blocker as well as a strong pass catcher down the middle of the field. He's gonna do something. He's gonna be a really good prospect for somebody in the NFL. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, continue to grow and develop, as well as Malachi. Just his whole thing was just didn't run well.
Well, I did take the time to watch on more than just a brief occasion some of the Combine, and what it did initially was make me feel old because it's been 40 years since I participated in the Combine. 40 years, 1986. If my math is correct, is my math right? 40 years since I've been in the Combine. When I go back and think about it, I just remember all the camaraderie all the guys had because there's no rivalries in the Combine because all of us trying to get a job. So there was plenty of support, and I just remember how grueling it was. Having said that, really, really impressed by what Jeremiyah Love ran, because there were people that knew he was fast. When we watched film and saw him running away from folks, knew he was fast, but I didn't know he was 4.36. Damn.
He's moving.
That is, and I guess the comparison they made was to Saquon Barkley, who ran a 4.4. And Jadarian Price was no slouch either, running 4.4. I mean, in what world now is 4.4 slow? So, but 4.36, and so all of his drills did well, and I think he just solidified because you got scouts that will just focus on what they see on film and the plays they make on the field, which to me is more important than any sprint that you run. But in football, we do have these metrics that we look at, and we've got a track record that says if dude is 4.36, he's running away from folks. So to verify that he did have top end speed is going to, without a doubt, make him the first back drafted in the first round, which we got to go back, I don't know how many years, but Jerome Bettis was the last Notre Dame running back drafted in the first round. But the thing that kind of sucks about him being so good, he's going to end up on a sorry team. And let me preface it by saying this, because I got to say this a lot of times. There's no bad teams in the NFL. There's just teams with bad records, because I remember, 40 years ago when I was playing, Tampa Bay wasn't that good. But when we played them and you looked at the roster on the scouting report, you'd be like, damn, they got that dude and they got that dude and they got that dude. And over the years, when there's been some dominant college teams, people would say, I remember when Alabama was just running everything. And people would say, oh, Alabama would beat Tampa Bay. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
in
that's
a million years. It's just too much talent. But getting back to my point, the shelf life of running back is short enough as it is. I would hate to see him go to some sorry team where he won't be able to showcase his skills, and just get beat up and never, ever really appreciate the talent that he has. So I'm hoping somebody can trade for him or something. Somebody that is just the only missing piece they have is running back. Like I would love to see him be with Kansas City. Oh my God!
I mean, he's only got to get to 9 because that's when the Chiefs pick, which is like a nightmare for everyone that they're sitting there at 9 and they could wind up with Jeremiyah Love this year. Like I don't want him. I'm with you, Alan, for the sake of Notre Dame and being
why is everybody so against the Chiefs? What is that about?
Because it's gonna I mean, it's awesome for Jeremiyah Love. It'd be awesome
I'd
for Jeremiyah Love.
Well, I'd love.
It's bad for everyone else.
Yeah,
it's bad for everyone else.
Some of the
like
mocks.
Who?
Yeah,
I'm a Bears fan.
Yeah, well, some of the mocks I've seen.
You're not a Bears fan. That's the NFC. This is the AFC.
When they play in the Super Bowl one day, Reggie, Jeremiyah Love's gonna be running all over the Bears.
Now, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him with Kansas City to be teamed up
that would
with
be the
Patrick
ideal
Mahomes.
spot for him. Because that's the one thing they're really missing.
Yeah.
Another spot I would love to see him is in Washington.
Oh yeah,
a few spots up.
God.
If they have a quarterback and they have some guys on the edge, like he would really. I think he would really flourish in that system. Of how they run their system, because the thing that really strikes me about Jeremiyah is his fluidity. Mm-hmm. He is very powerful, fast. Yeah, everybody raving about the speed, but his fluidity and how he moves, it makes a world of difference to me in the next level, because he has that. You talk about Saquon Barkley, and that was the thing that Saquon has, is his ability to make guys miss, but also in the process he can run you over.
Yeah,
and Jeremiyah has very, very similar traits, and then that top end speed. When he can hit you both ways, and to have that capacity, and then you put him there in Washington, man, that would be like ideal in my mind for him to go. They're right at number 7.
Yeah.
I think that would. But again, I don't see him getting past 10.
I'd be the first one singing "Hail to the Washington football team." I grew up.
How do you say "Hail to the Commanders"? How does that work? I don't think that works.
No, it doesn't. But some of the mocks I've seen show him going to the Saints. I'm like, damn, I don't want him to go to the Saints.
I think it's okay. I think the Saints could be okay, because I really like Kellen Moore. He just had. I mean, look what Saquon Barkley did in Kellen Moore's offense that 1 year with him. 2,000 rushing yards. Tyler Shuck showed some promise last year. You have Chris Olave.
You do have a young quarterback.
My only problem with New Orleans is their cap situation is horrible.
Oh yeah, they're like $50 million over the cap.
I mean, you're not going to be able to get anything around him. Quickly. This is you talking about a rebuild. You're starting from scratch a lot with regard to New Orleans. that's the only reason I would not, be, again, and I know Jeremiah, wherever he goes, he's going to go out and perform. But New Orleans, that one I'm hesitant about because of all the needs that they have. It's like Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, not as bad as Cleveland, but it's Cleveland-esque, if you will. And but I could definitely see him picking him, but I would not. Again, Washington, the Chiefs, in terms of ideal spots for him, those two, because him and the Andy Reid offense and what you can do, his ability to go catch the ball out of the backfield, and he is a hell of a blocker.
Yep.
Both lead blocking and pass blocking. This kid, like I said, that's one thing you like about Saquon, his ability to read the defense, be able to come out of the backfield. I mean, he is that consummate all-around back that you're looking for, and you get him, you're getting a kid. And the other thing with New Orleans, they just the track record for building a back up and having a long career, not great. Not great. That's not, I just don't want him to go somewhere where like the Jets are the Browns and the. I hate to say it, but that's where your career goes to die.
You're exactly right.
Those three, and it's kind of the Raiders is kind of becoming the next one. But those are the organizations where you're just like, no, we don't want to go. We don't want him going there.
It's interesting because Jadarian Price we're probably talking about the exact same teams with him, honestly, because he could be an end of the first round guy. Mel Kiper in his most recent mock draft had him going in the first round. That might change after today because he had him going to the Texans, who traded for David Montgomery. But like Price feels like end of the first round, early first. So it really feels like we're kind of talking about the same teams. He's going to go in the same range as Love, where if Love doesn't go to the Saints, it might be Price to the Saints in the second round, or Price to the Chiefs in the second round, or the Commanders or something like that, or the Tennessee Titans could be an option. It's really interesting to see how this draft's going to play out, I think, for both those guys. But something you mentioned, Reggie, I want to circle back to, because like the combine's changed a lot. I mean, I don't know, Alan, and Reggie, how much for you guys there was combine training, but that's what these guys do now. Like they just train for they just train for the combine. So they're putting up these big numbers. So you mentioned Malachi, Reggie goes and puts up the 4.61 40. Not a great time. I saw people freaking out about him right away, and maybe that hurts the first round buzz, but it feels like one of those where maybe the guy looks faster in pads than he is without him. Is that fair to say? Because it doesn't seem too concerning to me.
Not to me either, because again, the kid has a great, a huge catch radius. He attacks the ball. It's just, it's the combines is the underwear Olympics. And people will either, jump too high or, pass on a guy, based on the combines. When, you look at it, I just don't see why you would pass on this kid because of what he did on the field. And I do remember, Jerry Rice was like 4.6.
Thank you. Yep. Only the greatest receiver of all time.
Right. And the thing about it, Jerry ran great routes, and he was again very fluid in how he moved. And I don't remember a lot of guys catching him from behind.
No.
Just saying. So he and I'm not saying that Malachi. Jerry Rice.
I was writing that down. Malachi Fields next Jerry Rice, says Reggie Brooks.
Again, you look at how he plays on the field, and I think we get so enamored with the combine and those numbers, and people train for that. I mean, they literally have coaches. Oh yeah, that's their role is to train them for the combines.
Teach him how to run a 40. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how things go for Malachi when he, for the pro day when they come to Notre Dame, and if he runs better, because again, surfaces do matter. And India's been known not to have a fast surface. So I think he'll have another opportunity before the draft to improve on that if he decides to run at the pro day. So I'm not overly concerned because, again, the things I look at is the high jump and the long jump, because that speaks to explosiveness. Running a 40, you just run. How often are you going to run straight line in a straight line for 40 yards?
Well, as a receiver, a couple times a game.
Yeah. I mean, and again, and even then you're having to avoid a DB to get to that vertical. How quickly can he stack a defender? How physical is he that he can, really attack a defender and put him on his back and post him up and leverage that defender? These are things that we, you look at on the film and you see, and it's like, well, yeah, he may not be like straight line fast, but he's explosive, he's powerful, he runs good routes, and he knows how to attack the leverage of the defender. So, I mean, 4.6 is not great. Don't get me wrong. I would have liked to see him run better, but I put the emphasis for me is more on turn on the tape. What do you see? As opposed to, oh my gosh, he just ran. Well, just like the Styles kid. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not good, but it's like, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Jeremiyah Love, but this kid was a 245 or something, and good Lord, that's kind of scary. But does his play translate on the field like it does, working out? Because that's all the combine is a workout. And if you're signing a guy, drafting a guy based on a workout, which teams do, that's insane. That's insane.
Well, Malachi is on the radar because he had a great Senior Bowl, and so that's him putting it on film. So he may not have run the fastest 40, but sometimes guys play faster than they run. And just like Jeremiyah Love was 4.36 and Jadarian Price was in the 4.4s, but when you watch him play in the game, Jadarian Price seemed a lot quicker around that line of scrimmage, but top end speed, Jeremiah's got him.
I'm curious, when you guys think back to what you guys know about what goes on at the combine, like it is the underwear Olympics, but what do fans not understand either watching, guys like Jeremiyah Love or thinking about their favorite NFL team about what goes else around it with all the interviews? Like what else should we know about the combine that happens that's so important? Is that all outweigh what happens on the field, or is there kind of a balance?
I would say to me, it was the off the non-workout stuff was more tedious and grinding, because some of the questions they would ask you would just be asinine, and they would do it and they would have you come in it was very strategic to attack you mentally, to see how you handle stressful situations. And you literally go from these, they keep you up and talking to you and asking you the same question, but just in different ways. And then you have to go out and perform. And if you're in your head, it can throw you off. It can definitely throw you off with all the off the field stuff. And not to mention, remember the thing that really got me was when you were paraded in front of, all these people in just shorts. Yeah. I mean, like literally, it was like you were on an auction block. I mean, and they're checking your teeth, checking your hands. And then if you had any injury, and they know everything, they're pulling, prodding, poking. I mean, it is somewhat degrading, but also just exhausting, the physical, trauma that you go through, and then the mental trauma, because I mean, literally, you're in the middle of this room with just
your shorts
in shorts, and you're measuring your hands, your arm length. I mean, any little thing, and it's like, what the hell? And and even when I was working in Notre Dame, I would always tell the guys that were going to go to combines, like, nothing is going to prepare you for that aspect of it. because you it's not like anything else you've ever going to go through in terms of just having eyes looking at you and they're measuring and checking every little thing. And man, these people will go all the way back to they'll bring up your childhood.
Yeah, they will.
And it's like, you're not third grade. What the hell does that? I mean, you would be surprised.
Yeah,
surprised at the length that they go to try to trip you up.
Yeah.
And if they ask you a question, they already know the answer. So don't lie. They're looking to catch you in a lie and catch you and make mistakes, and then they will just constantly drill and grind and poke and nudge. Well, what about this? And you're like, whoa. It's kind of borderline scary that they know that much about your life.
Not only that, they are trying to figure out what type of character you have. It's like they put you through this drill because they're looking for a choir boy. But let me tell you something. You make plays, you can be a mass murderer.
They'll find a way to get you out there.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the story about Fernando Mendoza. He said some team jokingly suggested that he get arrested before the draft, so he falls in the draft, which is very funny, honestly. But like, you can tell it's a test to see how he responds to that. Even though that team's clearly not drafting Mendoza, that's something that they write down and they go, "Hey, in 5 years when he hits free agency, or we could trade for him before he hits free agency, what did he say to this question?" So like, there's a long-term play, I guess, too. But it seems weird.
You should get arrested. What?
Yeah.
When you say that, you're just thinking. I mean, I'm interested to see how you said. Just like, why would I want to get arrested? Because it's gonna. How does that benefit me?
Well, some teams will look at it and say it's a knock on his character. We don't want somebody like that at the most important position on the team. The one that blew my mind, though, and Reggie, you'll remember this one, and Joe, you'll remember it. Was it Jeremy Tunsil, day of the draft?
Laramie Tunsil.
He got on a head mask smoking weed.
Yeah, that was crazy.
He put on gas mask smoking weed. But is he still in the league today?
He is. He's still highly paid.
That goes back to, especially now with all the NIL stuff in college,
mm-hmm.
and the videos, and you can't do anything.
No.
I mean, at least back in the day, they didn't have camera phones where people are taping you as a college student.
Thank God.
Thank God. Thank God, because I feel bad for these young men.
Yeah.
Now, because like any little thing they do, someone has got it on film, and it will come back to bite you in the butt because it's out there on film. And Tunstall, what could he say? What did he say? He's in college.
I like getting high.
Yeah, and I think it ended up being like his stepdad or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was a money issue that came out, so they leaked it. I mean, that was I think the first pick was on the clock of the draft when that video came out, or it was right before the draft started.
Yeah.
But like the draft was going. I mean, people he was going to go top 6 to the Ravens, and he fell to the Dolphins. He had a great career since, but that's one of the craziest things we've ever seen.
Any little thing, and again, they probably knew about it, and they probably asked him, and he probably lied. And then when the proof came out, somebody was, again, your own family blackmailing you. Come on, man.
That's tough.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
You can choose your friends. Hey, you can choose your friends. Can't choose your family.
Yeah, that's why, again, like I said, you look at even now. You look at these kids, like I said, that's why I was always impressed by, my conversation with Jadarian and Jeremiah, because I've met their parents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that it does matter. I mean, good people that they're not in it for themselves; they're in it for their child. They just as long as my kid is taken care of. But you have some folks out there that they're basically pimping their kids out.
Yeah, they're the agent for the kid. Yeah,
which is insane.
All right, let's take our first break here. Let's talk about that running back room next year for Notre Dame without Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. What does it look like? How do they replace them? We'll get into that next year on the Irish Squad Show.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. I've talked about it a lot on the show as of late. I like the Denver Nuggets to win the NBA Finals this year. They're plus 550 right now on FanDuel. I think those are pretty good odds. They really just have to beat one team. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's really difficult to do. They're coming off their first NBA championship, but if the Nuggets can get by the Thunder in the West, I think they're going to win the NBA championship. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, guys, so losing Love and Price is no easy task to replace them when you look at this team. Now you have, CJ Carr, obviously at quarterback. You've got a good offensive line still. We talked about the wide receiver room last week, a lot of names, a lot of options, and some proven depth there. The proven part is kind of what's lacking in the running back room. Aneyas Williams, obviously, is going to be the top guy going into this year. When you look at his yards per carry and the numbers he puts up, they're pretty absurd, honestly. Like, even though he's mostly facing backups when he's been in games, he's put up great numbers. But just, Reggie, I'll start with you. Just as we, look at it on paper right now, how do you feel about this running back room before you really see them, get ready and work out through the spring?
There's a level of concern in terms of the depth. You go from, Aneyas Williams, Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price, and even before you got Jabron Payne, and then Kendron Young, who has kind of been forgotten about because of injury. I mean, you go from that to really Aneyas Williams is the guy. And again, I'm glad we have that guy, because that is a guy, he's strong out the backfield, receiving, definitely a strong runner, but having the ability to spell him, who is that going to be? There's really no one else on that roster that has real significant playing time to spell him. And he's going to need that because, again, we play a one back system, and, and he's going to have to pass protect. You're going to need some other bodies that can spell him. And that was our biggest question with this, current roster, our current running back room is, do you have the bodies and the expertise to get these things done? And, I'm going to give Coach Sider the benefit of the doubt because he's done an excellent job. So I'm going to trust that he's going to have those guys right, ready to go, and, prepared beyond just Aneyas Williams. And again, I'm hoping that Kendron Young can come back, but he's coming off of a significant injury, and it's not one that you can just come back immediately. So we're going to need one of these young guys, Nolan James, Osborne, somebody is going to have to step up, and it's going to be a freshman. And, you guys know how I feel about freshmen. It's nothing personal. It's not.
Well, yeah. And if this was the NFL, there'd be no worries because, you're looking, you got to have your starter, and then you're looking for the cheapest backup you can find to round out the roster. But in contemporary college football, if you got 6 horses in the backfield, you're going to run all 6 horses in a game. I think back to when I was broadcasting, Georgia would always have 6 backs. A lot of the SEC teams, Michigan and Ohio State would have 4 or 5 backs, and they'd run them all in the game because the more depth you have, the more versatility you have at that position, the harder it is on a defense to try to key in on one single guy. So there's no doubt behind what Aneyas Williams brings to the table. I mean, he's been producing for the last 2 years. And let's face it, the ball ain't heavy. If they want you to carry it 30 times, you carry it 30 times. But the more people you can get in the backfield to have some diversity, just to make those defensive coordinators think and have to prepare for more than one style of runner is going to be important. And for Kedron Young, I know he had that ACL injury. What's going to be, key to me is when he comes out in the spring, will he be wearing a knee brace? Because I remember when I tore my ACL August 1st, 1992, when I was with the Saints, and the following year trying out for other teams, I had on a knee brace, and they would just, the coaches and the officials, they would just look at you kind of weird, because you damaged goods. And it was, you could sense it. And so I just, at that point, decided I'm going to trust the rehab. I'm taking this damn thing off, and I'm just going to run. So I'm interested to see if he will have on a knee brace or not. I hope he doesn't. I hope that he has done the rehab to a point where he's got that belief that he can return to the level he was at. But yeah, no doubt we're probably going to have a freshman or a younger kid emerge. And with this offensive line and passing game, I think that there's the ability or the opportunity for that to happen. But yeah, I look at the names. I'm trying to get familiar with them, like in their profile. Jonas Walton, a powerful back and top 2026 recruit. Javian Osborne, highly touted 2026 recruit, described as a naturally gifted runner. The
Osborne kid I'm familiar with because he's from Texas and from Forney, Texas, and he's kind of built like myself, 5'9", right around 190, 200 pounds. He'd put up some ridiculous numbers here in Texas. So, but again, I go back to your point, Alan, about a diverse backfield of different runners. Still, that's 5'9". Aneyas is 5'10". You're gonna need some big backs, and people didn't really see Jadarian. I mean, Jeremiyah is a big back, but this kid was what, 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, I think he was
215 pounds.
Yeah,
that's a different blocker. And and Aneyas has done a great job, but that's when you have a 6'4", 235, 240 pound linebacker coming up the middle or off the edge. Trust me, and this, Alan, it's not fun.
No,
it's not fun to have to go up and block that. And if you're consistently, because that's not the only, running is the one thing that, again, we're good with Aneyas. But that extra pounding of your pass protection and the other hits that backs take that, you don't, when they're not touching the ball, you got to have at least 2, preferably 3 to 4 bodies that you can put out there, and you're not wearing down one guy. Because, you kind of saw the kid that was at Boise State, carrying the ball.
Yeah, he carried it too much.
And then when he got to the league, he's struggling. Yeah. Again, like I said, your body can take only so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing they can do, if they don't have the necessary depth at running back to help out blocking, Notre Dame will always have plenty of tight ends that they could put in as like an H-back to help solidify protection too. But, you sort of tip your hand when you got a tight end in the backfield. You're sort of telling everybody, okay, we're going to throw the football because we need somebody in here to protect. So a running back has to have the ability to block. And it's easier in college, as you know, Reggie. You get up in the NFL and have to block these guys. That's a totally different story. The physics just don't match, because, look, I was benching over 400 pounds, but the last thing I wanted to do was have to go and chip a defensive end or block a strong safety, coming free on the blitz. Hell no, I don't want to do that. I don't
maybe
care
a
how strong I
Ronnie
am.
Lott or a Steve Atwater. You
Yeah.
want to block that? Come on, man.
Yeah, it was bad enough. I had to deal with, I don't know, I'll throw this, Bubba McDowell.
Ooh.
Bubba McDowell, he wasn't that big, but when he came in on a blitz and you hit him, it just made a different sound. It's like he had an engine tied to his ass. Yeah, and when he came in, so having a bigger body to absorb that stuff is just it makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you guys have any, comps for Aneyas Williams when you watch him run, and how you view him just as the number one guy. Because I agree with a lot of what you're saying about how, you need other guys to step up here. I mean, Aneyas Williams, this is a big change for him to now be the main back, to potentially be playing in, he might play in 15 games this year. That's going to be a big jump for him as well, going from a reserve role to being the bell cow for 15 games. So just from him, like, what are your expectations for him, Reggie, this season? And if you comp him to any other running backs that you think of when you watch him go?
Oh, he's definitely. I can see him over 1,000 yards, and I think he's going to get 1,000 yards rushing, and I can really see him another 300-400 yards out the backfield, if not 500 yards, because he's such a good receiver.
Yeah,
and I'm blank on the kid's name, but his last name was Washington. He wasn't a big back. He was in New York back in the day, and I'm trying to remember the guy that he had a big back, Anderson, Otis Anderson. And he was complimented to Otis. Yeah. And he was older than me, but he was great out the backfield, great blocker, very shifty, and a lot stronger than what he's given credit for. That's the thing I like about Aneyas. He does a good job of getting in and out of the hole. He's not one of those guys where you have to hold the hole open for a long period of time. He gets in, gets out, and great acceleration. I don't think he's more to me like Jadarian Price as it relates to the inside runner. Jeremiyah was just different because he was so fluid, and Aneyas, he has a bit of a power run game to him, but he likes to hit corners or edges of defenders, so he's not running right into a defender and getting swallowed up. He does a good job of hiding in the melee in the line, and then popping out, bursting out, and accelerating from there. So I have every confidence that he's going to be the guy that's going to get it done in the backfield. It's just having another piece back there to kind of take the load off when he needs to take a breather, because he's going to need that. Because that's just a lot of work that you put on one guy. And again, and Alan, you touched on, this is new for him.
Yeah.
He's used to being the spell guy. Now he's going to be the main guy, and I know he's excited about it. It's just we got to make sure that we take care of him and keep him as fresh as possible, so he's not getting worn down. And that requires to having some other guys that can step up and really step in to where he can come off, get a blow, and go back and do what he got to do.
I've got a comp for you. I think he is a more athletic Blake Corum. I think
that'd be nasty.
Yeah. And Blake Corum, he has that, to me, bowling ball effect because he's a little heavy. I think Aneyas is a little more athletic with sort of that rumbling style, but has the ability to catch the ball better than Blake Corum. But to me, that's the comp that I would see.
That's interesting, because I like Blake Corum a lot. I think it's really interesting to see what even like the Rams have done with him in the NFL with both him and Kyron. It's been an interesting combo. So like if he's like Blake Corum at all, Notre Dame's in a good spot. And the last 2 weeks now, last week we talked about the wide receivers. This week we talked about the running backs. Obviously we've talked about CJ Carr a lot throughout the offseason. I am curious just, now from a big picture perspective, just how you guys both feel about the skill position players as a whole going into the season. To me, I feel pretty good about where it's at. I think there's a lot of on paper where you can say, okay, this can work with these different guys. Tight end's the only one that I'm not super familiar with for this year of what that room is going to look like and how it's going to pan out for the Irish. But Reggie, how are you feeling about the skill position overall this season?
Again, I've got to put the tight ends in there. So that's my biggest concern. Like I said, from a receiver standpoint, we have the pieces we need that can, we got guys that can play in the slot, guys that can edge guys. We got, those big body receivers, and we got Aneyas Williams, and I think they'll find another back that can get in there and help the load and actually be productive. But tight end, I'm like you, I don't really know what's out there, really. I mean, it's what we have or don't have. Because a lot of it was just, it was Eli. I mean, beyond that, it
was like all Eli.
Cooper Flanagan, that's the only guy named that I am familiar with beyond Eli. And, and I'm wondering, like I said, are we going to see more 2 tight end sets because of the running back situation, not having the numbers there, getting somebody and then kind of be that H back in the backfield. That's the biggest concern I have from an offensive standpoint. We have the receivers, we have a running back, but tight end, I mean, outside of Cooper Flanagan, I don't know there's not a lot of production beyond what we lost at that position. So, and you don't really know until you see the guys play. And, practice is practice and it's important, but, I just don't see that. That's a position that has always been a position of strength for Notre Dame.
Yep.
And now it's kind of like a question mark.
Well, there are some names there that I guess we did go into the portal and get a couple of folks. I look at it. Ian Premer, 6'5", 220 pound from Kansas. Preston Frizzell, 6'4", 220. I would still like to see him up around 250 or 245, but 6'4", 220 from Ohio. And then it's Colin Walls, who's 6'5", 225, which to me seems kind of skinny, but he's from Indiana. So maybe we got one from Indiana that'll help us. But there's some depth there, but it's not proven beyond Cooper Flanagan.
Washington is the other one. Now, he did play more this year, but he was more of a blocker.
Yeah,
wasn't necessarily about receiving, but but a lot of it was a lot of Eli. I mean, and that was the name that was constantly being talked. So I like Ty Washington, got good size, but again, not a lot of proven commodities at that position yet.
Well, speaking of, let's take our next break here. Let's talk about what it's just. I'm curious from Reggie and Alan's perspective. Just when you walk in the locker room for the following season, and that best player is no longer there, what it's like for these guys this coming year to replace Eli, to replace Jeremiah from the player perspective. We'll get to that next year on the Irish Squad Show. Today's episode of the Irish Squad Show is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person, cut through the chaos. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long using your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. And now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Featured and cleared swap tradings involve significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. All right, guys. So, any stories, anything you can tell me? Just what's it like? Like, Alan, when you walk in that locker room, you have a great player. They go to the NFL. They graduate. They go to a new team in the NFL. Just what's it like from the guys who are left behind? Of like, we got to replace this guy. We got to replace Jeremiyah Love this year. How does that feel as that next guy that has to step up?
Well, I mean, there's one thing that's prevalent in a locker room is the next man up theory, which you have to use during the year because sometimes the best player gets injured and you have to step up. But I mean, you come to that school wanting to be the guy. And when the opportunity finally does present itself, you just make sure that you've done the work in the background. You got yourself in the best possible condition and know the playbook cold, because it's those things. Also have real good practice habits because it's those things that are going to make you stick out. Also, it's good to have a great player because you can take a look at their habits and the things they do to be successful and try to emulate those, because if they were successful with the little idiosyncrasies they had, then maybe I can be successful if I start to employ some of those characteristics. So it's just with a new year, you're not nervous about it. You're actually welcoming it's not pressure, because pressure is a man-made thing. There's only challenges. You're looking forward to the challenge of being that next great person.
Well, for me, it was pretty, that was an expectation. We had such a deep, roster of guys. I mean, like I said, when Derek Brown was first round pick and tight end. We had Irv Smith, who was a first round tight end.
Yeah.
All right. We were, Chris George, was a second round pick, Ricky Waters. I mean, Rodney Culver. So we had a slew of guys, that were going to the NFL pretty consistently. And we were just like I said, next man up. You were chomping at the bit because it's like, hey, it's my turn now. I've waited my turn. And, we had, my draft class, we had Rick Meyer, Jerome Pettis, Tom Carter, Irv Smith all went in the first round, and Devon McDonald, Demetrius DeBose, myself. It was the norm. It was expected. So, going into my senior year, we had the thing that stuck out to us most was the senior class that left before we lost the last home game. And that was kind of the whole focus for us going into the next season, the 92 season, was we don't want to go out not winning the last home game, because senior day, the last 2 years, we're sending the seniors off with a loss. Tennessee 1 year, I'm trying to think who was the second year, but that was just heartbreaking. So for us, it was not about, this guy went to the NFL, because we were always, the expectation was, hey, we're the next ones to go. It was more about, okay, you losing great players, and we just had so many. So it's hard to kind of encapsulate how there was no difficulty about it. It was just like, hey,
it's your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. And we just, because like literally in the year after, my senior year, you had BY, you had Jeff Burris, you had another ton of guys that were, first and second round picks. And it was just like, we had a bit of a factory going on for a little bit. And so it was just kind of a commodity, a known thing that you're going to get, draft picks and, great players out of Notre Dame, coming from that background. And I know, the year after, the year after I left is when they had the, 93 season, the game of the century against
and
Florida
lost
State.
Another final home game.
Yes. And that was the thing that rang true more for them, was the fact that they went out with the last home game losing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, that was always the thing that stuck with them more so than, and like I said, we barely beat, Penn State in our last home game. So it's something about that last home game in our era. It was always a challenge. But, you lose a Jadarian Price, you lose a Jeremiyah Love, Eli Reardon, Emil Wagner, you use some good players, Malachi Fields, but they have to have the mentality of, they weren't the only ones producing. And this is what I like about this team, is that the production was spread pretty evenly. You had Greathouse and Faison in the receiver position. I think Cooper Flanagan is going to be that next big target at the tight end position. You have like strong offensive lines. Aneyas Williams, I like I said, I see him going for over 1,000 yards rushing, and then even catching the ball in the backfield. So, just from a mindset standpoint, I think they're just more pissed about, not making the playoffs, and they're coming for people's heads.
Yeah, I think, Alan has said it. This season is leave no doubt. They're gonna punish teams for what happened last year. Like this season, I think the replacing players in a year to year is probably, it's a little different this year versus a normal season, because there's so much, I would imagine, frustration, anger, just eagerness to crush people this season. It is going to be. We have 27 shows, 26 now after today. I did a countdown. I was looking to see how many more of these we were doing before week 1 of the season. Mainly because I miss football, guys. Like, we got the underwear Olympics going on, and people are acting like it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm like,
wait till the draft. Shoot.
Well, I like the draft, because at least we know where these guys are going then. But like this one, I'm like, I need people to hit someone. Like, I need contact in my life. But yeah, this season does feel a little bit different in the fact that, because of what you guys just talked about there, that like you're, after last season ending the way it did, I would imagine these guys, like, our questions about the offseason about, are you prepared? Are you ready? Are you ready for week 1? I'm not too concerned about most of that, just with the way last season ended.
Well, I think there's going to be a greater focus this year. I think all that starts at the top, and I just have to give a ton of credit to Marcus Freeman in terms of having those guys believe that they are good and to go out and perform. The only difference is they can't wait a couple games into the season to realize that they're as good as they are. And that's why I say leave no doubt, because there's no doubt that they were one of the better teams last year, but you screwed yourself because you lost 2 games. That's just bottom line. You can't lose 2 games and get into the playoffs. And I don't trust that committee with that, if as long as they're ranked, as long as they're ranked number 12 or 13, I don't trust that committee. They'll rank them number 14. So the only way to get in is win all your games, maybe lose one. And I don't even know where that one loss can be, but leave no doubt. And I think these players that are going to be on a team this year will, instead of talent being so much the focus, I think that drive to right the wrong that was made is going to be the main focus. And when you can ride on, that type of passion about you did us wrong, and we are going to rectify that wrong and make it a right.
All right, just a reminder, in a couple weeks here, we will start our top 10 Notre Dame players of all time. You can send us your list at irishsquadshow@gmail.com. You'll have to vote Alan and Reggie on the list because I have a feeling they're not going to vote themselves. So if you guys want them on there, make sure you put them on. No, I'm just saying. But just send us that email. Send us your top 10. Doesn't have to be in order. If you want to put it in order, you can. Just your top 10 players of all time, irishsquadshow@gmail.com. So for Reggie and Alan, I am Joe George. Allison will rejoin us next week. Thank you all for listening and watching. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.